It's our pleasure. It's also nice to meet so many of you. So I am Coutuer, and I'm together with Kevin. Kevin manages the data and digital team at Valipac, and I represent that team in the meeting of the directors. We both have, well, I'm a bit older, so I have a bit longer history with data warehouses from the very ancient times. And Kevin can add to that himself, but also Kevin has roots, has always worked in that field before he was managing our team. So we have a strong affinity with the problem of data warehouses, data vaults, etc. We'll take you through our story. We'll change voice at every slide. I'll do the first couple, then Kevin will take over and I will jump in so that you do not get bored by the single voice. But please raise virtual hands or something because we cannot see you all. If you would want to throw in a question, feel free to do so. These are the parts that we will just position who is Valipac and why is digital important for us and where does data fit in and then where does VaultSpeed fit in. But feel free to interrupt and ask questions. Kevin, can you give me the next slide? Yes, thank you. Valipac is actually a central actor in the economy, circular economy in Belgium, as there are laws in Europe and also in Belgium about people who put, let's say, junk, and in this case, it's industrial and commercial packaging on the market, that they have a duty to take it back off the market. That is what we do for all those companies. Valipac has been doing that for 25 years. We do that for about 7,000 clients. So by rendering our service, we can tell to 7,000 companies that we have taken care of their duty to take their packaging waste that they put on the market back off the market. We work with more than 200 operational companies. So those are the companies that you see running around in the street and driving around emptying containers. So the clients are the ones that bring in the waste. The 220 are the ones that take it off. We sit in the middle, we orchestrate things. All in all, it means we take off the market annually about 780,000 tons, which is 780 million kilos, and about 3.4 million tons, which is 3 billion kilos of reusable industrial packaging and waste. It means that we can have an impact of upwards of 90% of stuff that gets put in the market. We can trace back, that we take it back off. That's our purpose. Yes. We go back 25 years and obviously didn't start with VaultSpeed. I wish we could have, but I don't think you existed 25 years ago. And so as many companies, we started with paper forms. I dare to say we, because I was around at that point and I remember the forms very well. We moved into an Access database, very traditional journey. For those who are old enough to know Cognos as a front-end layer, analytical layer, we had Cognos cubes. And then somewhere in the mid-2010s, there was a strategic move to, let's say, to outsource, and this is important, to outsource the full data warehouse. We call it data warehouse, not data vault, to fully outsource it towards Deloitte, who ran sort of business intelligence and data warehouse as a service. And technically, that was a whole setup with DB2 databases later, other SQL, open source SQL databases, IBM DataStage, and still Cognos Analytics. We grew on that, and you see some outputs there. One of the things we do, you see the little maps in the icons. We trace the waste all the way across the globe. So we can tell our 7,000 clients, rest assured, if you do your duties with us, we can guarantee you that your packaging waste is not processed somewhere in Indonesia by child labor. I'm not biased. Actually, the reality is, for instance, and that was a surprise to me at least, for instance, paper mills are like 10 times more modern in Thailand and Indonesia than they are in Europe. So there's a very high degree of professionalism, but there are regions where we need to give red flags sometimes, for instance, because of child labor, because of filters that are being burned. And all that is actually data business. So we need to trace who are our self-task clients, who takes it off, who sells it to whom, to where is it shipped, where is it processed, do we get red flags, can we count those kilos, can we deliver certificates to our clients and our processors, guaranteeing them and allowing them to put on LinkedIn, for instance, that they are clean and they're doing their job. We were running into the wall. Kevin will explain further, or Kevin and I will explain further. We really come into a digital mature area where we are no longer a waste company, we are a data company. And in last year, we moved to VaultSpeed on top of Snowflake and Power BI in the front end. And that's what our story is about today.
Do I pick up in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to reiterate a bit on the changes that we had in the past. In the past, we had really a very linear model where we were just focused on reporting, but because we wanted to we had some more data maturity, we wanted to really position ourselves in the middle of the market and provide more added value to our to the broader chain, and not only focus on reporting to the government. We felt that we needed to grow more. So that's here, instead of this linear approach, our focus on creating these other data assets and added value for not only just giving the check mark saying you're compliant with legislation, but no, being able to say, look, your plastics are 50% recycled in Europe, 20% in Middle East, etc. So to be able to give that added value going forward.
So we became much more data driven. So yeah, we can go to the elephant. So yeah. What is the elephant about? In 2023, we decided to implement Salesforce.com. And you can say, what does that have to do with your data warehouse and VaultSpeed? Well, it was really like an elephant who ran through our systems landscape, because we put it in not as a CRM system, just like for the people in sales or something, but really as a central repository of all the interactions we had with everybody, also containing all data about which person has which authority in which system, can see which data, has which contract with us, etc., etc. I see Laura asking, anyone else using Salesforce? Yeah, a few people. And so this thing came in the middle of our architecture, and we had a huge project having not just to implement Salesforce, that was okay, but changing all the systems in the periphery. And the project management that was done on that project was good, but it had also missed a big important thing. As you may have often heard, we'll do the data warehouse afterwards. We realized that it was not just doing the data warehouse afterwards, but that we really had to, that all our systems had changed, all our definitions had changed, and that our old data warehouse was really we would have to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euros on rebuilding 25 years of data warehouse on old technology. So we had to take a bold decision. And I'll let Kevin explain other motivations that added to the reason to go to VaultSpeed.
Yeah, it came at a, I would say, even rather opportune moments, because let's say that when now we are looking at the legal landscape for us currently, a lot of changes are happening on the European level with new legislations like the PPWR and ESG reporting. And what it means for us is that going forward, we feel that there will be more competition, and that's something we haven't encountered in the last 20, maybe 30 years. So it creates a new sense of urgency to be able to scale and be more agile in how we go about our data. We also identified that we need to be more modular, in a sense that there are more and more questions from externally on implementing similar systems for different material streams that are currently not in our scope. So that kind of creates additional requirements in how we can scale, how we should scale our data. On top of that, that's something that you also pointed out, was initially we were very much supported by our external partners. It's still the case, but since we were less mature on the data side 5-10 years ago, it meant that for us the last few years before the change, it was still a big black box on what was happening in the data warehouse itself. And it was one of the requirements we had that within our new strategy, that we really wanted to take more ownership on that. And then, so more agility and quickly deliver, that's something that I already explained. And then the shift indeed towards more ownership. So for us, it's a completely new way on how we wanted to do IT, and I see data as part of it, but also it's a movement that we're doing in other aspects as well of our department. With that together, that led us to now build on this new technology stack that was able to help us on that.
Yeah, so it's very important. I think the lesson that I learned, having been in data warehousing for a long time in my life, is that it was a totally new paradigm. Not just because the methodology changed from a very Kimball-inspired data warehouse with star schemas as mainly the output concept, now to a data vault concept. I don't think that so far was the big mental shift. People got their heads around that, so that was okay. But the big impact for us was that we could redo our 25 years of history in about 6 to 8 months. If we wouldn't have done it, we would have gone out of business, because all our regulatory duties, all our client interactions come from our data warehouse. So it's not just a reporting tool. If we hadn't made the deadline of 8 to 10 months, we would have lost our permit to exist, our license to exist. So it was a big gamble, which paid off. And now we can we can play much quicker on the ball. Just to give you an idea, before, so 2 years ago, when we said, we want to add a different region in Belgium, it's not really in Belgium, we wanted to add Luxembourg, the country of Luxembourg, to our scope. And we said, how much is this going to cost? And so business people think, it's just like another province in Belgium. It's okay, it's another country, but it's like just adding something. The change to our data warehouse would have cost us 200,000 euros, which put us totally out of the market in terms of expanding our regions. Our old data warehouse is so expensive today, even if we need to even invest in that, if that's become dynamic. But even if we would have to do it, we do it in a matter of a week. And so our changes have become much shorter. So going back to that slide, we took back ownership because we didn't know what was happening in our data vault or in all the transformations. Now we know it's in VaultSpeed. We now can really model towards data products. We recently decided to, let's say, set up a second, because we are working for more and more clients, not 7,000, but more and more. We start delivering our service to other organizations that do the same thing as us. So we need to sort of give them their own data vault. And so we are starting to copy the setup we have so that we can become a professional service delivery organization to other companies such as ours. That would have been simply impossible before. So because we have now a modeled, based on a model, data vault, we can copy the model, we can change the model, and we can give new models to new customers. So for us, it really turned into something agile and flexible and future-proof. If you are already a user of VaultSpeed, you're probably already convinced of everything we're saying. But sometimes I hope we can give you some arguments that were important for us to convince our shareholders for the investment. Maybe there are new arguments here that we can bring you.
We started first initially with a proof of concept, and I kind of took up these results back and also added a bit more info on also post factum, so after the implementation on where we stand. And what we can see is that for the vast majority of things that we identified as important, VaultSpeed really met or exceeded our expectations. Things that stood out, and also the feedback that we got from the consultants that helped us also with the implementation, was that the low-code environment is really something that was standing out, and it helped them build out solutions in a matter of simple drag and drop actions, so that they didn't require extensive coding. The visual interface makes it easy also to explore and understand the structure of the raw vault and the business vaults, and that with the data lineage, it helped us also generate the data model, significantly enhances the data governance itself. Where we did find two gaps. They're similar, that had to do with business logic or business rules, and I will go maybe a bit deeper on that a bit later. I think we'll first just zoom quickly in on where we really felt that the VaultSpeed exceeded our expectations, was really in the ease of use and the seamless creation and the seamless integration that we had with, at least when we set it up together with Snowflake, where it helped us also create the stored procedures to generate all the needed views, and also the task orchestration. It helped us in a visualized and organized manner, and for us, it's really something that helped us. Also for this, what we touched upon on the agility of adding new data sources, of doing modifications, really felt that now it's happening in a very efficient manner, and we can move at a higher pace. And also when we do releases, that it helps us with this visual documentation of the changes between the different releases. In terms of where we felt like our expectations were also met on how we felt like the hub satellite links were all able to generate them without much difficulties. We did some testing on the delta load generation. Those were also positive. It's something we haven't gone deeper in as of now, just in the way that our data is structured, but going forward, it might be something that we will expand on. On information marts, there that's something that is on our horizon for Q3 2025. So in initial tests, it also met our expectations, but I hope those are also going to be when we will be developing them. We hope that it will also still stay positive as it was in the proof of concept that we did. And then
maybe that explain, if I may chip in. We had a deliberate strategy to stop at the business vault because we came from a very Kimball history of 25 years, and we were overwhelmed with star schemas from the past. And so in the past, we had to do for every reporting requirement, we needed a star schema. I wanted to avoid that, and so we set as a rule, we will first build the business vault we will only start growing into information marts when we are a bit more mature, have a better understanding of where they would be useful. So maybe, Jonas, I don't know if this is against your methodology, but we didn't immediately push through to that level, just for us to avoid that we would end up again in a situation that we would have information marts for everything where maybe they are not relevant. And even though the tool is very productive in generating and designing them, still it creates a certain level of a forest of star schemas that become cognitively quite complex for the end users. So that's why we were prudent in doing that in a two-step way, and we're now starting to take the second step.
Maybe other customers also did it like that. I'm not sure for the people in the call if this strategy also aligns with what you're doing or have in mind. Or maybe Jonas, you want to add something there?
Yeah, I had a quick question. So it's not against any best practice, whatever. I mean, I always thought that I did a lot of star schema myself, and I also felt some of these issues. What DataVault did for me was actually to fix star schema in a way, because it made it easier to maintain whatever you had built on top. That's what it really did for me. But I can follow the strategy where you first focus on the foundation of the whole thing, only then to start putting more and more focus towards the user cases. The only question I had is what if you have an urgent reporting requirement today? Do you deliver it straight on top of the Vault, on top of the business Vault, or how does it work?
Yeah, and obviously we have them because otherwise we would be out of business. So we have built all the reporting, and it will mean that some of it we will redo, but other is really reporting, which is like quite, let's say, operational, very tabular, which is not analytical, which is more what an information mart is for. And I think with this step, our problem in the past was that we had star schemas as a default output format, which meant that we also needed star schemas for very tabular, non-analytical reporting. And then those become very inefficient. And we started having a lot of variations on the same star schema just because it had another extra dimension or anything. And that was a high price to pay. I agree, Jonas. Now we're going to pay a price with this strategy of having to redo a few of the more analytical reports. Kevin can chip in and say, I think Kevin had to do quite some tricks with MDX in Power BI, which probably would be less needed and less complex in Power BI if the underlying data structure would be multidimensional from the data structure on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also for us, we built quite some reports on the business Vault itself. For a few reports, we kind of had to go with some personalized views to be able to meet that demand rather quickly. Of course, now the point is going to be to migrate these onto the information marts when they will become available. But since we were coming from a very black box situation where we didn't really know let's say the model as well technically, just because we didn't have access too much to how the data was technically in and sent. Now it really gave us a bit the nudge to really dig deep into the model itself, which will help us also helped us greatly with the understanding of our data and upskill on that part. So I think it was a very good step that we did there, and it helps us to increase our digital maturity and will help us for sure with also in designing the new information marts, since we already know more what is needed as end products.
Yeah, I like the idea of not building dimensional modeling for everything. And it's a bit also what Laurent added in the chat. So I don't know, Laurent, if you want to share and step in, but you mentioned that they're also migrating from the traditional Kimball approach to Data Vault and then building data products on top. And I suppose, but correct me or keep me honest, Laurent, that you mean by that you build a data product, whether it is a star schema or a flat table or whatever the use case requires, right? Makes sense.
Yeah, nice. Thanks. All what you guys talked about really resonated with me. It's interesting to hear other experiences. And here at Thomson Reuters, for us, a data product is a traditional star schema, fact tables, but with the additional endeavor to tag all these data assets so that they can be discovered and searched in the organization. I think my employer has about 30,000 employees. So one of the challenges that we have is to make all these data product reusable.
Yeah, that's interesting. We don't do that. We don't do the tagging, which is an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you don't need it.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think we would. We made the first step, and I think the first step was that let me call Kevin and I the IT people and the data people. We felt we had lost control of our asset. If I would do the metaphor, if we would have to sell Valipac to a new shareholder and they would do due diligence and they would say, yeah, to which extent do you control your data flow and your intellectual property about your data models and your data vault, which obviously seems to be very important because it's mission critical and it guarantees your license to operate. We would have had to answer, we are lost. We don't have the data models. We don't know the logic. We don't know what it means. We've outsourced it entirely to a good partner. They've done their best, but we have given away the keys. And now, so we've done the first step. We've retaken control. Our external partner still helps us and operates on top of VaultSpeed, but we noticed that, for instance, that when we have new consultants at the partner, we see how much quicker we can onboard also new talent, new consultants, because now the models are clear, they are done by a methodology, they are in the tool. So the strategic importance alone motivates the investment. And I think that's often under stressed. I think we often look for, will we write less code or will we have fewer coders or fewer tables? But that's very hard to make the business case. We made a very convincing business case just by saying, suppose we are in a crisis, suppose we have an opportunity to sell whatever, we would never pass a due diligence without VaultSpeed.
Okay.
Where were the expectations not met?
I see that Joël. Yeah.
Actually, my question is about where the expectations did not met. So maybe I should wait for that slide then.
Yeah, that was something that came out in the implementation where it wasn't met. Where you had some difficulties with more personalized business logic let's say to implement that already from the start via VaultSpeed, which I had some complex queries or combining of multiple subqueries into a single output and then push it towards and then have that output go to Snowflake. But it for us at that time it felt rather difficult to do. So we moved that business logic entirely to Snowflake itself. There was, from what I understood, something planned that there will be some more capabilities with SQL going forward. But yeah, for us, we struggled a bit with that business personalized business logic. It had to do, for example, when we have certain declarations and we have certain versions, and we just wanted to highlight the most recent declaration. So there is some logic that needs to be written there. We didn't get that to work, so that was one of the gap. That was the main gap that we had identified.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that it wouldn't have worked, because I think we had a lot of debates about that, and I appreciated that, by the way, Jonas and Laura, that you really put your expertise there. I think we forced a choice at a certain moment. There was a choice between, do we put that procedural logic, because that's what it is. Sometimes in the transformation process, you really need to have complex logic that is not just being caught by a simple query or by just pouring data in another table and doing a transformation. The choice that we were in front of was, as I said previously, we had lost control over those transformations. We didn't know where they were happening. Now with VaultSpeed, we would regain control. But if we had the feeling that if we put them in the current version of VaultSpeed, the VaultSpeed model would start to look extremely complex because of those very specific business transformations, procedural transformations. And I was worried that we were moving to a model-based environment where we would no longer understand the model. And then that's like a self-defeating thing. There's no point going to a model-based environment if you don't understand the model anymore. So we made the choice to say, look, if it's a really very procedural processing, like stored procedure, doing if, then, that on the record level and combining things, we will write stored procedures and do pre-processing or post-processing and keep a clear registry of those processings. I think we call them our moulinettes, so that we know that we mix vegetables and fruits and meat like baby food. We know where we do that. It's very well taken care of, but it doesn't screw up the understandability of our VaultSpeed model. So we really chose to protect the VaultSpeed model and not contaminate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so others might have that situation as well. The price that we pay is that we don't have all the transformations anymore in one place and in VaultSpeed. So we have a little bit of more governance to do now to know we have Moulinet 1, Moulinet 2, Moulinet 3, what does it do? And that's not all anymore in VaultSpeed. So that's a price we pay in terms of governance.
Okay.
I always say also, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I need to my stakeholders are the board of directors and the directors. I've never had to say we don't have the results, we don't have the data, there's something operationally we can do because VaultSpeed is not working. It never happened. And from a point of view of sleeping well at night, from my point of view as the person accountable, who basically took also the gamble to use this platform, I very much appreciate that, because it's not so self-evident in IT that your platform does not get you up at night. And so I'm already very happy just with that.
Yeah,
you get your sleep. So yeah, I get my sleep, or I can wake up for other things. So.
That's great feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I think here we just had one more slide on putting it all together. So now, when the current situation where we are now is that this is our setup where we I have the flat files that land in our S3 buckets. We have the model and logic that is generated through VaultSpeed, and then all the rest is stored in Snowflake and then reported in Power BI. So yeah, it's just this. I think we had one more just slide. We checked. We asked for feedback a bit on just internally, and yeah, they all put some quotes, and they were. I'd say that from our stakeholders, we're getting very positive feedback. Since the change, we noticed that We are more agile in changes, but we also move to a more robust situation. I do feel like the last year let's say I have less issues with the data warehouse itself. Then there can be multiple reasons why sometimes we used to have the issues in the past, from rogue columns that were suddenly present in a data set somewhere, that now we feel like everything keeps running, and everybody's very appreciative of that across the organization.
There's maybe one question that we didn't put on the slide. Did it become cheaper? I think it became much more valuable. We get much more value for the effort that we do. Is it substantially cheaper? Not really, because obviously you replace one thing with a license fee, you replace labor with a license fee, etc. But so it's not per se significantly cheaper when nothing changes, but the payback starts hitting when hitting in a positive way, starts coming in whenever there's a change, whenever we need to build a new data product, whenever we need to onboard a new client, whenever we need to develop a new service. Going back to my example of 200,000 euros just to add the country Luxembourg to the data warehouse, those things are a thing of the past. And because that is the case, we can now develop commercial services that we couldn't develop economically before because our data warehouse was the financial bottleneck. And so we are again future-proof as a business. We need other things to be future-proof, but I can clearly state that with the old technology, the data warehouse was making the organization unfuture-proof. And so the payback, I could almost say it's like infinitely large. I shouldn't be saying that because now maybe you will get the idea of charging me an infinite license cost. But I need to, it's a thing you need to explain to management, because they will say, oh yeah, but you had this in your cost sheet last year and now you have something else. It's a new label, but it's the same amount. Yep. So my cost sheet is the same amount, but look what we can do now. That's really a story I need to point out.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Any questions for Kevin and you, maybe on the architecture they have, or others? Yeah, Joël.
I have one question. So you clearly put a lot of effort in making a nice raw data vault model, but if you could change one thing in VaultSpeed to make it even better, what would you do? So what's your number one feature request for VaultSpeed?
Personally, I would, and I'm not a user, so just to make that clear. But the whole thing of let's say exporting, maybe I'm saying stupid things, but navigating, exporting, and conceptualizing the model. So for me, the understandability of the model and being able to work with that, zoom in, zoom out, I mean, aggregate. So the whole thing around user friendliness of the modeling, the graphical modeling is something that I would benefit from personally in my role, to explain things to people, to show.
You mean a linkage with a conceptual model or something?
Yeah. So
okay.
when I say zooming out, I don't mean graphically, but I mean conceptually.
Yeah. Clear. It's something we heard before. Sometimes it's fixed by just zooming out. I know platforms that do it like that. It's not really a solution, but anyway. But
what about Kevin as a user? I assume you are a user.
Well, I have used it less than I should, because I was able to I was supported by consultants who are doing more the work, like the work in VaultSpeed itself. My focus was more on the Snowflake end. Yeah, so I would say like I think I can reiterate what you said on model itself and the zooming out part conceptually. But I have a bit less experience in really hands-on working with it myself.
But the good thing is we never got complaints. We never had our consultants say, by the way, we forced VaultSpeed onto the consultant, which is an important thing. The consultant had never used VaultSpeed. And we started with 2 junior people straight out of school who had never built a data warehouse nor a data vault, who had never seen VaultSpeed. And we entrusted them with this mission critical project for us. Why, for me, is this important? Because it illustrates that we went to a lower dependence on talent. As you know, with these people, they move quicker than they did before. We've had to replace people, so we have an entirely new crew after 1 year, and we didn't really notice a drop in productivity as a client. And that is so important. So it means that the tool is handling something in terms of complexity very clearly. We are much less dependent on consultants, on individual, on expertise, because the expertise is contained in the software.
And well documented, yeah.
Do others agree with that as well? Like Tim, Laurent, other team, Bart, what are your thoughts on that? Or other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, just one remark. Who provides the business logic to the developers? Because you need a kind of basic understanding what your business keys are and how that interaction went with juniors.
Yeah, we started, what we did do in the beginning is we did draw a conceptual data model, quite extensive, so readable format. It was, let's say, a quarter of a wall of an office big, and we did take them through that. Another thing we had was a lexicon, which I will hurry to say, afterwards they said we never used it, so that was like weird. But we did explain them the conceptual data model, and then they had access, and Kevin helped a lot with a lot of experience, and they also had access to developers of the operational systems who knew the keys. But we did indeed invest in first drawing the conceptual model and making sure they understood our business before we unleashed them on tables, right?
Another question from my end. You said at the beginning you stopped at the business vault. And how you go further to your reporting or to your queries.
So currently, the data products that are there it's a bit hybrid of reports built on the business vault itself, where Power BI was able to work with the number of tables that there were, and some customized views for. And that was mainly for those reporting needs that came very early in the year when we were still building. So there we built some custom views to be able to service those requirements. But as we mentioned earlier, we are now on the kickoff for our designing the new information marts, and that's for the rest of this year, where we will building that layer and then have more of those. And then migrate the reporting to those models where relevant.
Okay.